Told you I'd be back after lunch. Barely. It's the God worlds. Those are the God worlds. You want to know what God is about? You should be very familiar with these worlds beyond this world. Each of you have a body in each one of these colored planes. Those are the etheric body, the ego. That's the violet area. There's the universal mind, the blue. The individual minds is the causal. It's where all your records are kept. The astral body, and then the physical world down here. All of these worlds up here in yellow, these are worlds of pure consciousness. No form, formless worlds, deeper into consciousness. You can study these lower worlds here. Hi, everyone. You can study these lower worlds in in a lot of teachings. You can tell the level of teaching that you're dealing with when you understand all these worlds and where. Let's just say that one operates his life to whatever level of consciousness that he's or her has unfolded to, maybe we could say. It's just enough to say that we talked about on the last video how when you see something, you smell something, you taste something, something that invokes everything in you, not just physical, but invokes the astral or emotional, pleasure consciousness, and then invokes the mind. The mind is the library, the mind is the creator, the mind is the let's do this because of that. Consciousness just is. It is the observer of all life. And out of that springs duality and creation, or embodied within it, we'll say. And so it's just I've got these charts for you. We put these at the class because if you understand, if you reverse the way you're looking, many individuals are so trapped in their physical bodies that their view is from their physical body. So this is a very, very finite chemical body, and when you're looking at something that created all this, the smallness and the finiteness of this area, very difficult. So when you look at it, we express God in form. We look at God as a male principle in Christianity and a big man with a long white beard. We see through the mind instead of through consciousness. So we see through thought, which is not a good place to see from because that's aberrated. Thought is conditioned states. Thought exists only in creation. Thought does not exist in consciousness, in pure awareness. You have no thinking in pure awareness. And you can practice that and observe that for yourself and see the difference between invoking thought and just being awake and aware. And if you get lost in thought processes, then that's pretty much where creation pulls you into it, and makes not only you the observer, but you become the actor, the player, the producer. You become the whole thing. The writers, everything. And yet, you're still just the observer of the whole play in action. Amazing when you look at it. But understanding the God worlds, looking differently, instead of looking from the physical shell and the physical limitation to something that's infinite, try shifting your view and looking from the infinite to the finite, because in reality, that's the truth. You're more infinite looking into the finite. That's the old saying is it I think, therefore I am? Or is it I am, therefore I think? There's a lot of those little things like that. But it's always good to know creation, because reversing the role, you're being more of who you are, and when you get away from the thought processes a little bit and free yourself up a little bit, you start expanding. And you start seeing more and knowing more things that are obvious that weren't obvious before. It's funny how that is. How our own level of thoughts block us from seeing the whole truth of everything. And that's why we put so much in academics. I wouldn't. Because you're so much more than academics. See, they're looking from a position that they assume everybody's ignorant and that education is the way we get smart. Big mistake. Because the mistake is, who are they even? Their mistake is also affecting them and their experience in their own universes. Because we are merely having a party here, be it negative or positive. And we are just the observer of this. We cannot be that which is the finite. We can only experience it through consciousness or through states of consciousness. Fun stuff, though, when you look at that, because you are already infinite in your consciousness. So you don't have to pretend to look from the all to the finite. You have to become the all. So when you learn how to stop thinking, you will start working from the more of the Godhead, maybe you could say, or more from God consciousness, or more from a higher level of awareness down into the worlds below. Sort as a figure of speech, because we're all wrapped simultaneously in actuality around us, constantly. Your emotional and mental bodies are as present as your physical body. It only appears that we travel. I mean, there's so much to everything. It's interesting stuff. But the only way you're going to help introduce yourself to truth is stop using your conditioned mind and believing in the things that you were taught by the medical profession. Is a good example. Some people have a hard time breaking out of that conditioned thinking that these guys in white coats and stethoscope have some knowledge of health way beyond something they're not producing. Because they're not producing anything like that. We are. But then that's our field, But anyway, knowing the God worlds is a fun thing because it's your survival. It changes the dynamics, the paradigm, from being the effect to being the cause. And the same thing is going on in health here. We're teaching you to look at the cause of things instead of looking at the effect of things. If you treat the effect with toxic pharmaceuticals, take a look at the death rate. And the harm rate, no one talks about the harm and maiming of humans, which far exceeds the death rate, of course, but then there's the death rate, which is so astronomically high. For what reason? See, the world of being healthy doesn't have those kind of words and things in them. That's why the medical profession is not a health field and shouldn't be using those words. We're the health field and can prove it. We have the evidence to prove it. They do not. So that's the problem here. If you're just patching people up and hoping people will survive on chemicals, well, okay. Man, I was just listening to Trump giving this friggin' emotional speech just now to this. He's awarding this one guy in particular. I think he's a Marine. He saved a bunch of guys. Oh, tear-jerking thing, man. And Trump's going over this and telling how he saved everybody and everything. He's like, gee, Merry Christmas. This guy was an amazing soldier. Let's see here. SOS. Health problems from Greece. All right, let's see what's going on here. We have a lot of Greece friends. What's going on there, Greece? Although I know the sad thing is that all countries in this world is hurting. But in that context, you can't follow the same paradigms that's making everybody hurt. You can't follow the same practitioners. You can't follow the same dietary advices. You can't follow the same thing if it's not working. Can we? But the problem the medical community has, and some of the other communities, is they can't or don't want to link chemistry, which is everything to this world, to your health problems. Can't be chemistry, even though we swim and breathe in it, and we're like underwater in it. The air is full. There's no voids. So we're swimming in the ocean of oxygen and hydrogen and nitrogen and carbon and all the other minor gases. And I mean, we live in the world of elements and things. So how can you not blame the type of food you're eating as the problem when we can demonstrate very simply that by changing your dietary habits, it changes the chemical matrix from an acid environment to an alkaline environment, from a deteriorating environment to a healing environment. Oh, that was hard. It's amazing of how this world has locked itself into the mind and into these type of ideals and propagandas, the very things that lock you deeper and hurt you more. It's amazing. People accept some of these premises that have no validity to them. Not really. It's just that the hype build up around certain people on certain levels, and then the education, making those people digging ditches feel like they're the dogs of the world as opposed to those that have the doctorates. Right. Hello, Dr. Morse. Thank you for the precious time you... Oh, thanks. I appreciate that one, dear love. I appreciate that one. My name is Barbara. Hey, Barbara. I haven't heard of a Barbara in a while. Bob. Oh, that's something else. Me and my husband were watching every single video, oh my God, of you on YouTube. So I'm vegan for more than 2 years. Excellent. On the other hand, my husband isn't. Typical. But in my life, I've been the opposite. I've been the raw foodist, and whoever I was dating or married to wasn't. That's been my life, is the opposite. You don't think that it'll affect you. I used to think, well, if I get a mate that's not into raw foods, that's okay, because I'm strong, very self-disciplined. That doesn't affect my love for somebody. It makes all the difference in the world if you have somebody a little more like-minded, particularly when it comes to diet. Oh, yeah. He has some health problems about 10 years now. Ooh. These problems are pain in the abdomen, belly, after any meal, or even without eating. Okay, so pain in the abdomen. We're looking at, let's see, stomach, all right? That can be affected. Small bowel, absolutely. Colons, maybe on either side. How about liver, gallbladder? So we need to know where in the abdomen, But not only that is take a picture of his eyes and see what's going on there. These pains are also accompanied by puffiness, swelling, and some gas in the intestines. Okay. Well, we could be down at the stomach pancreatic area. We could be at the pancreas. We could be at that whole matrix right there. Gas. Now, again, this could be a sulfur case. Heavy sulfur in the gut, which would act similarly. But we also could have, why would you have gas when you're eating your foods? Right, when you're not properly digesting them. So with the proteins, you're going to have putrefaction. With the carbons, you're going to have fermentation, basically. Or the nitrogens will say you're going to have the putrefactions, and with the carbons, you're going to have the fermentations. One's more bacterium-related, and the other one's more fungus. The fungus among us. Boy, you have a response there that also talks maybe about the stomach and the autonomic nervous system, in some way. If you automatically get puffy up and stuff, interesting stuff. Gas in the intestines would say that you're not appropriately digesting your food, but if you get it right away, I don't know. Sounds like things are clogged up there a little bit. Even could be liver gallbladder. Take a look. All right, so let's just stop there and think about this. Does it matter if, just from this question here, does it matter if we really can see what the problem is? It'd be nice to know just for the fun of it, say, oh, there's where your problem is. From the eyes, we probably can see that, to be honest with you. You take a look, see if there's any black around the stomach area, you look to see how bad the lymph is, how chronic and all that. You could probably pick out where the pain is and ask him a few more questions and probably point to right where it is, and you know right where it's at. Because if he points where it's at, you're going to know whether it's the bowel, the small bowel, the stomach, or the liver gallbladder. Just where he points where the pain is, you're going to know. But look at the eyes and see where that pain is, because pain generally is in two stages. Acute, which is the stage you're creating these things, and in the degenerative stages. You know, I gave you an analogy where Jim entered the hospital, the ER, in an acute case of appendicitis. He was rushed to the OR, they cut him open, found that his appendix had popped, and they cleaned him out, suctioned him up, and sewed him up and saved his life. That would not be accurate. That's how we would describe an event like that. But it would be more accurate to say that Jim entered the hospital with a degenerative case of appendicitis. Maybe in acute pain, meaning acute new onset pain, but that's not new onset. Acute pain, there's acute pain and then there's degenerative pain. And you could have in the chronic levels where that pain is just an arthritic pain. You're feeling the whole wrath of 3 pH or close because they killed the bacteria in your body. Those of you that suffer the most are those that did the antibiotics. Period. End of story. You kill the bacteria in your body and you're asking yourself for major trouble, and yet they're the ones that blame the bacteria on everything. That's because they don't know causative factors. They never took the time to understand food and the chemistry of food, the chemistry of your body. No, they're off running with some kind of disease stupidity. So they're left out in the cold. They don't understand anything, so everything's autoimmune. Oh, that's just your immune system. Your immune system what? Nothing happens for no reason. There's cause and effect rule everything. And if you're a practitioner and don't get that, well, sorry, go back to school. Take physics or something this time. You know, understand there's another principle besides chemistry, and that's physics, energetics. The world chemistry came from. And then if you want to spiritualize yourself, go back and go further than that and look at energy as a form of awareness or consciousness, which now you would be entering quantum physics. He has also pairs. He has also pairs / heartburn and regression. After many visits to doctors and without any results in the past year, he made some examinations that showed polyps. Okay. One of them in the large intestine, which the doctor condemns. The other polyp is in the esophagus. Oh, and it's 2 centimeters. Well, all right. So why would your esophagus or your bowel wall get a polyp on it? Let's define a polyp as a little tumor. Basically. It's the same thing as a boil and a pimple. Basically, they're topical tumors. You can take a tumor and pop it inside if you want. That's why I don't know why they don't aspirate some of these bigger tumors. Just aspirate them and then give us a chance to fix them. If we all work together, yes, life would be a lot good, but don't count on it. But these are little tumors. So what system would a polyp, a tumor, a boil, a cyst, a pustula, what system, and there's only 2, it's going to make it hard, 2 systems to pick from, like 2 sides of chemistry. Ooh, it's getting tougher. Which side of chemistry would that be coming from? Acid side. So if it's the acid side, you have to only pick one other system. The lymphatics, these aren't blood pustules, or you can get them. Yep, this is all lymphatic. Interstitially everywhere. But that's what shuts down organs and glands. That's what breaks things down. You have to ask yourself, if you have pancreatic problems, what's causing it? If you have liver gallbladder problems, what's causing it? Well, there's only 2 things that flow around each cell and every cell you have head to toe. Can we guess? Only 2 things. Blood and lymph. Blood and lymph. See, so what is happening, and the problem here is it's backing up esophageal. So that's not good. That the next thing you're going to see is swelling on the side of his neck. Stuff like that. And it's like, oh, no, we want to back up right now. We don't want to go any further because that's not good. And then if you do go allopathically, you don't want to know what they do to neck tumors and stuff, do you? I mean, I saw a guy that only had this much left between his head and his shoulders. Look at what that gentleman went through and is going through on all levels, as opposed to just going on a fruit diet for about 6 months, getting the kidneys to filter and cleaning all that out, and then having a neck and a life back. He still doesn't have a life because They didn't cure anything. They didn't fix his systemic lymph problem. They just cut and cut and cut. I'm just saying, we can't live in that dark, agey level of thinking anymore. Not and survive as a species on this beautiful planet. We've got to think, just thinking about survival of the species. Following a treatment, there was no positive development and the symptoms continued. The last 25 days he followed a vegan diet based in fruits, including rice, that's not fruit, also potatoes, that's not fruit, and many fruits, and less vegetables, and of course fresh smoothies. Some of the symptoms like heartburn have retreated. And it will, getting back on an all-raw diet, get him on fruits, berries, and melons. All right, that's number one. Now you got to go in, get him on the GI broom. You get him on the stomach and bowel formula. You look at the eyes. What do you got? Pancreas, you got liver, you got gallbladder. What's going on in here? Right? That way you can use herbs when you don't have to. See, if you use the eyes, if you need the liver, gallbladder, you can use it. If you don't need it, then you don't need to use it. But the eyes will help you to see if you need to take those extra herbs because you have a deterioration in the liver or fatty liver. Maybe it's the pancreas, which gas and all that, depending on the eating, it lends itself toward the pancreas, no question. But remember, these are branches on the tree of the GI tract. So on the tree of the GI tract, we're popping up little tumors. So do you think it would be a stretch to realize that branches might be getting little tumors? No. I mean, this has got to realize when the lymphatic system's backed up, it isn't just backed up over there. It's backed up generally on the whole side that the kidney is involved in. And of course, in time, they both get involved in. But all the other symptoms I described above still exist, of course. Well, you want to get focused. You don't want to just do a little half-assed fruit and then throw in some rice and potatoes. You know, when I go after somebody, I'm going after you. And you want me to win the day, right? You want us to win the day together? Well, we're going to go after you. We're not going to sit there and whistle Dixie. You know, that's the people that end up with tumors like this. Yeah, I don't whistle Dixie anymore because you see what happens. And if you work here, you get to see what we see. And it, you know, even Attila had to take off a day. Couldn't take it. Broke down a little bit. It's tough. You know, not everybody makes it here. You know, there's some sad cases, you know. Everybody that comes here don't always walk away. You know, we're trying our damnedest to save people. But when you're given a few weeks to live and then you hear about us, that's tough. That's tough. Sad too. But, you know, that's part about trying to develop detached compassion. I talked to you in school about that, developing detached compassion. Very difficult, especially in my case because I'm called the compassionate one. That's the problem. That's been my problem for a long, long time. Too much compassion. And it's just that I got to keep pulling myself back to the God consciousness where you realize that everything's okay. You know, these are just bodies and stuff. And even though we're locked into that pain and everything here, once we're away from it, we're away from it. But it's still what you suggest in this case. All right, so I suggest, Barbara, that you get him on fruits, berries, and melons. You get him on the initial detox 14-week protocol. It's about probably all he's going to need. It's a 14-week protocol. Add some GI broom. I think I have some marked on that. But you want to go through, and the reason why is, all right, so let's look at the first kit. You've got formulas. You got 2 formulas in there specifically for worms, flukes, all the parasites that can start chewing on you, right? And of course, and then the fungus as well. Then we got herbs for the liver gallbladder. That begins to go into the liver gallbladder and also over to the pancreas and go, hey, I love you. I'm here to help you. Right? Then we have 1 lymphatic formula. That's to really start moving the lymphatic through the kidney as well. Also a little bit through the GI tract, a little suction on the wall there, but also to move into the body if you have any absorption and start astringing and breaking apart this lymphatic system. Then we have the endocrine gland formula. Of course we're going to go after your adrenals and your endocrine gland. I add adrenal formula on top of that's how bad life is out there. And I have 2, not 1, 2 kidney formulas. Stomach and bowel formula, absolutely. Then we generally don't start you on the GI broom until, but I would work with that. And even we have a stomach tea, and I would sip that. if I was him, I would have the fruits, berries, and melons, and I would sip throughout the day the stomach tea. With that, go full bore into the detox program, because you don't know what's going on there. His pancreas could be shutting down, gallbladder. He's had a pain in there, so that's, of course, obviously acidosis, but the confirmation is polyps, tumors. So you know it's his lymph system. You know that. You know, of course, it's acids, and that's why the pain. You just don't know exactly where. Well, since you're not pointing me, you have a finger to point me, I can't tell you. But I can tell you that it ain't good. So you want to fix it. Fix it. Everything's fixable, so fix it. But I use the herbs in the diet to fix everything, guys. Alright, so how will all the symptoms disappear as well as a polyp in the esophagus? When you start moving, that's a good question. How can that be? How could we remove the pain out of the body, and how could we remove those polyps? And how about if you understood it came from only one system? And that one system has eliminative organs to it. And the trouble is in the eliminative organs. You're only looking at the side effect of all this. Everything you're saying here is only effects, not causes. You've got to take yourself right down to his eliminative organs of the sewer system of acids. Because remember what we said earlier, it's acid side of chemistry that breaks you down, not the base side. So you want to take a look at that and look at his eliminative organs. What's his blood pressure? Is it high? Is it low? Is the top one high? Is it low? Is the bottom one? Remember, the bottom's the kidneys, the top is the adrenals. The bottom one's the most important. You don't want that bottom one to be above 70. Of course, you want it to be 120 and no more than, say, 140. Now, that's your adrenal punch. That's your neurotransmitter punch. When that top one's down, your neurotransmitters are down, and you can start to see when it's chronic and the blood pressures are in the 90s, you start to see nerve rings in the eye. In other words, the myelin sheaths are going down. I mean, what's fun is with the understanding of the lymphatic system in place and the understanding of its true job about the elimination of metabolitic waste and understanding the acids and what acids do, you can understand every single thing that's going on in health in people and why they suffer. Once you just put a few of these little jigsaw puzzle pieces together where they're supposed to go, pretty soon the picture comes to light and you, oh, look, that's it. It's funny. We could spend lifetimes unawake and suddenly, that's it, and just wake up. All right? So, when you start getting the eliminative organs to start filtering, because give you $100, go get the urine from your buddy, your friend here, whoever we're talking about here, husband, and have him pee in a jar, $5, no filtration. Now, two other things you have to think about in your husband. Lower back, L4, L5 and below, and Monsieur Prostate. So anytime you do blood work, you want to have with him, you want to have the whole gamut. You want to have PSAs checked. Of course, you want to have the metabolitic panel so you can see the creatinine bun, because you want to keep a track on your husband here. This is where all things start to go down, so you want to be real careful here. Because if he's got polyps and stuff like that, that means he's backed up in the prostate, he's backed up all over. How bad is what you want to be careful with. So when you start opening the door, start sweating, and opening the door of filtration of the kidneys, guess what begins to break up and disappear? Tumors, polyps, and we've had tumors as big as baseballs. So, I mean, you have to open the door, because when you see occlusion, or you see a swelling, or a tumor, or a cyst, you've got a blockage. Where's the blockage? You can only have a blockage in a couple of places. And the lymphatic system is the universal system that deals with everything like that. This is not a blood See, a blood blockage, you would know it pretty quick. First of all, the tissue's going to die on the other side of the blockage. That's it for those cells. Or you're going to have a heart attack, stroke, or whatever. Not so with the lymph system. The lymph system, oh no. No. That's a slow, long, painful, tumored mutation type of death. Totally different than blood. And you only have the two to choose from. So, it doesn't become difficult for anybody to understand this, including young adults. What diet should he follow, and which of your herbs and formulation do you suggest? I suggest the 14-week protocol at the very least, and I also suggest fruits, berries, and melons only. Get rid of the rice and the potatoes. Those are only clog him. Those are complex starches, acid ash-forming foods. Maybe not the rice, or maybe the rice, a little bit, it's controversy there. Some other problems that he has is the inguinal hernia. Ooh, do we now? So, what we have here is a possible parathyroid weakness, don't we? Possible connective tissue weakness could be local, genetic, or possible pituitary parathyroid. Possible. On one of your videos, you said that can be replicated the gut tissue. Can be replicated the gut tissue. I'm not saying I know what you're saying there, my dear. Can you please tell us how can this will be happen? Well, I just explained it in the last video, the calcium buffering system. When you're acidic, your body goes into full-bore immune response called inflammation. And your body, inflammation is your body's natural immune response. To what? That's why you always want to ask questions. To what? What is your body immune? Oh, something got in me somehow, and right? Your body has an immune response against foods that are not foods. Your body doesn't like certain types of what man calls foods, dairy products. Dead animal tissue, believe it or not. Your body has an immune response to these, even though you go, oh, I love the taste and I love this. Your body doesn't. You might, but your body doesn't. And so many foods are mucosic responsive and mucus forming because they incite or irritate the mucosa, including peppers, hot peppers. So, trying to figure out what you're trying to say here. All I can tell you is you're going to have to clean him out and regenerate him. Clean and strengthen, clean and strengthen. Also, he has many muscle pains in the body. That's what I'm saying. His lymphatic system is down, and you're just corroborating it for us. Because everywhere you say, oh, he's got here, he's got something over here, he's got something over here, he's got something over here. Well, does he have 10 different problems? Or does he have one problem that's yielding in 10 different places? That's more like it. See, that's the irony and the simplicity of this. When you have one system down, it can fool you. Because you can have 20 hot spots all over the place. You've got medical doctors full. All your cancer moved on you. Like a creeping crud moved on you. So what you're just saying is he's acidic all over himself, honey. He's like fibromyalgic, where he's got acids, all his systemic acids are not being removed. He has stagnation. His kidneys are not filtering. That's why I say, check the lower back, check the prostate. And might want to check his creatinine in his blood work. If it's above 0.6, no. And that's well within their normal ranges. What can be done about, what else? Okay, he's got muscle pain in the body in general, but especially in the back. There you go, the spine, the backbone, and in the neck. What can we do about it? Move the lymph system. Get these acids out so he can rebuild. And also you might think about the parathyroid as he's rebuilding connective tissue and skeletal tissue. We watch you long time through your amazing videos on the YouTube. You have incredible knowledge, and we identify. Oh, thanks. Thank you, Barbara. You do a great job for him. Oh, thanks, sweetheart. Appreciate that whole bunch. Looking forward to a yoga response. Yeah. Oh, I say namaste, my dear Barbara. Well, it's enough to say, honey. Hook yourself up to the living. And your husband, too. Get you hooked up to the fruits, berries, and melons. Take yourself a ride on the wild side of life. And put those self-disciplines in order, throw out the crap you've been used to eating, and head on down a thrilling ride to Wellville, where the energy is robust, the awareness is incredible, and the ride is fun. Yeah. Fun stuff. Stuart. Hi, Dr. Morse. My wife was recently diagnosed with hyperthyroidism and was directed to take 3 medications, one for the thyroid, one for her abnormally high heart rate, and one for her upset stomach. Oh, interesting. Oh, how interesting. All right. Did you catch this? All right. They gave her 3 medications for hyperthyroidism. hyperthyroidism, all right? One for the thyroid, right? One for the high heart rate, tachycardia, and one for the upset stomach. So let me reverse this for you. Why would I be concerned about an upset stomach when I've got a hyperthyroid case right here? It could lead into, the buggy eyes, the Marty Feldman eyes, and the Fleetwood Mac drummer insanity when he was younger. That sort of thing. Where is the stomach and the solar plexus, right? It is the seat of what? The autonomic nervous system. So, when you have hyperthyroidism, what could cause it? Let's look at the causes of hyperthyroidism. Number one, and foremost, your lymphatic system. When you're in the acute and subacute stages of lymph stagnation, this creates a hyper or hypo, either one, it can go either way, activity of tissue. You can stimulate the pituitary, which then will come down and stimulate the thyroid. Or you could just stimulate the thyroid, just get a little mucus and acidosis in the thyroid, and it takes off a pumping. Or you could have deterioration or acidosis of the stomach or in the wall of the stomach, creating a neurological reflex right up to the thyroid, causing hyperthyroidism. Or up to the brain or anywhere else. That stomach is a major seat of nerve responses. And of course, tachycardia and heart rhythms are what? A neurological experience. So when you look at the nervous system, you want to take a look at that. You can use an antispasmodic to hopefully try to slow them down. And you can always use the carotids and stuff if it gets too high. But I say this, there's only one way, in my opinion, to fix a hyper case of any endocrine gland. You do not want to take something for your thyroid gland. You could have a hypo case, but you don't want to take anything for the thyroid gland. No way. Here's an example. Let's say you had a little hyperthyroidism, you had a big goiter, but now everything goes into the chronic, remember, so now you're hypothyroidism, but left with a big goiter. See, we get rid of the tumors before we, go after the gland. So, in a hyperthyroid case, hyperpituitary case, and hyperactivity case, you've got to go on the fruits, berries, and melons and detox the body. That is the one, because it could be induced by a chemical you ingested. It can very mostly induced by the lymphatic acidosis. It can be induced through the stomach, through the pituitary. See where I'm going with these sort of things? Well, when you start detoxing, hyperactivity is an acidic, for the most part, experience. I suppose there's an alkali or something that could cause hyperactivity, but for the most part, you're looking at neurotoxin, and you're looking at excitement of the nervous system and stuff. Excitement generally falls, not just energetic. Energetic excitement is a balanced strength, but an acidic excitement is a stimulating excitement. And that could be what you're experiencing is from the stomach, that discomfort in the stomach rebounding, causing hyperthyroidism, and then of course that's going to cause your tachycardia. But your stomach could cause you tachycardia without having hyperthyroidism. And your stomach could cause heart arrhythmias. Oh yeah. Now you've got your adrenal glands to look at. Here's a case of neurotransmitters, which affects the heart. But in a case of hyperthyroidism, to me, go right in and detox. Don't take anything for the endocrine. You can probably take the endocrine gland for me, mainly berries. But I would head right on down detox road. Start cleaning the bowels, get your kidneys filtering, get everything up and moving. And that hyperactivity will come right out of there. I'll put it this way. I would rather have a hyperactive thyroid case than a chronic hypoactive case. Much easier to deal with. So that's interesting. The upset stomach, that's interesting connection, because remember, that's the brain. And that's going to be a neurological problem. So this could very well be feeding from her stomach area. All three of these medications are unfit to take while breastfeeding. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Plus you're going to end up getting your lymph system. So you're going to have to take a look at that and start detoxifying your baby. I am of the opinion that this is the lymph system. Oh, you're right on. Backing up, and that a nice long fruit fast or fruit juice would immediately improve her condition. Who's saying this? You're right on. You're right on with this. But I am now trying to also respect her right to choose whatever avenue of treatment. Well, but she has the right to know. So you sit down and be, the best way when you want to know how to approach somebody, a friend or somebody with the truth, be truthful. Speak from the heart, baby. Everybody understands someone speaking from the heart as opposed to someone speaking from the mind. Big difference. So I can respect that. But if she's a friend or something, you want to be truthful because she can hurt herself. The other problem with this is breastfeeding. If she wants to get aggressive and detox, here's the other problem. You see, you've got a lady here that's up for some serious problems if she doesn't correct this. So she's got to weigh that difference. I would also, if I was her, check the pH of my breast milk. Because it's highly likely that her breast milk's acidic. If it is, I would stop breastfeeding, depending how they age, and start moving to more base-dominant fruits. Because her milks are probably acidic. See, you got to realize it's great to breastfeed if your milk is base. If you're a mother who eats an acid ash forming diet and your body is more acidic, you turn your milks acidic. Your blood scrambles to stay alkaline by stealing calcium and basic bicarbonate. But the rest of your body can't scramble like that. It scrambles through calcium removal, lipid plaquing, the other forms of buffering systems. It's not just the bicarbonate. That's a very limited buffering system. As we had, we did the video with Pat to show you these things, just show you that I'm not the only one talking like this, that we have an anatomy physiology professor and a medical doctor that knows the truth. And if she knowledged up, that little lady's got more knowledge, and shoo, she's a sponge. Faster juice. You know exactly what she has to do here. So I get you respecting that. But if you can converse with her and tell her the truth and say it's up to you, but there's no cure. And generally speaking, she might be on a med now for hyperthyroidism, but let's say if the problem is the stomach, she could be getting deteriorated stomachs and going through, say, toward gastroparesis because she's wanting this med that's controlling the tachycardia and the hyperthyroidism to some extent. This could also end her up with a huge goiter too, which she's going to have to turn around and do what we do anyway because they can't do anything. They end up taking the thyroid out. Well, this lends itself to what's going on with the baby then. The mother makes her own choices, but the baby doesn't have that chance. So that's one of the problems there. So what she chooses is really going to affect the baby long term in so many ways. So it's up to her right now to really learn the truth of this and be smart about this. And there's so many huge goiter cases we've cleaned up in my time that it's not even funny. Dr. Calabrese always comes over and tells her story. So it's just that sort of thing. These are not difficult cases if you get after them. But I'd really want to look at this because now we're looking at a neurological event here and other things. So I have two questions. One, what can she do naturally without the use of pharmaceuticals to treat and cure this condition? First of all, you don't want to treat it because that would be medical. Second, you can cure it because that's us. We like to cure things. Medical doctors can't use the cure word. There's no such thing in their dictionary. There's no curative anything in their world. So if they claim it, we'll sue them. Because you can't. You don't cure nothing. There's nothing you cure. Nothing. You can control, but that's not cure. All right, so just what I said, just what you said. You said it yourself, what she needs to do. You already know, you smart one. She already needs to hop on the diet and meet that. She should be anyway to get her milk alkaline for the baby, number one, and so the baby can be healthy. That's key. Her condition of her milk is directly related to the condition of the chemistry she's consuming. To not believe that, that's ridiculous. You know, you've got to understand that the chemistry is everything to us. That's why you must understand the species the human being belongs to and the type of foods it's designed to eat. We have to go back and cover that. We have to go back and show you this. The teeth and the other body parts. I got that upside down? Yeah. I mean, we got to show you to get you back to the simplicity of truth. And of course, our dear friends proving it every day. Every day. So, I'll do just what you said. I'd jump on a fruit, berry, and melon diet. I'd get on the herbs. Here's the problem. She's breastfeeding, and she's going to detox the baby with it. But maybe the baby needs it. But how old is the baby? The baby needs to get off because her mother's lymph system sounds like a mess. She needs to get away, get on fruit, unless it's a newborn. And then you might have to make a little formula up out of superfood blends and stuff like that. We've got the infant formula. We don't have the brand new one. The one we have still sticks a little bit in the nipple. I have been making a substitute formula using 1 young coconut, 1 cup of water, 4 dates, and 1 teaspoon of Hawaiian spirulina. That's just too much for a baby. Spirulina and 1 teaspoon of wheatgrass juice run through a slow press juicer. Is this adequate? It's more than adequate. I wouldn't give her the spirulina, but I would throw a little more fruit in there. I'd definitely throw some grapes and some tasty fruit in there. Get her used to the fruit. Mango season. Babies and mangoes. Oh, man. I mean, you're talking about brain food. Fruits are brain, and berries are brain and endocrine gland foods. Why would you not want to feed your baby brain foods? No, that's a good, you're doing good. You're doing good. Although I would change wheatgrass to alfalfa. Yeah, much more nutritious, much more powerful in its nutrient focus. I knew Ann Wigmore personally. I always disagreed with her totally on wheatgrass and all us farmers. Even Shackley believed in alfalfa. Alfalfa is the most powerful plant out there almost. So I would change that wheatgrass to alfalfa. I like the dates, but I don't like the spirulina on a baby. Be careful because the babies don't need that much nutrition. I'd give her a little fruit. Maybe you can get sweet banana flakes and stuff like that. You know, and grind all that up, get it real grinded up, or make it into a juice. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good that way. But the baby doesn't need to be breastfeeding anymore. Obviously, it's old enough to eat, so get rid of that because the mother has got to get onto this. If she doesn't, she's not going to like her decision because they will take it out or radio kill it. That's what they do, guys, in hyperthyroidism. You end up having a thyroidectomy, or especially if you start getting a goiter, a big goiter. Well, let's do one more because the day is coming to an end, but I'm going to come in almost all week this week. Subject, Dr. Jensen. Okay, Randy. Hello, Dr. Morse, the Burt Reynolds of Indies. I like old Burt Reynolds. He's looking a little old. You know, he'd like to get to some of these people like that and get them on a health kick and really get them going, you know what, and rebuild them. I would love to. I wanted to get Patrick Swayze because, you know, no matter who you think you are, and of course the next one going is the one with brain cancer, Senator what's-his-name, but then he voted no on the health care, and it's like, oh, you just messed up Americans badly. So gets what he gets. Thank you for all the things that you do in the hard work. Oh, thanks, man. It's definitely a bunch of work, but it's fun. You guys are fun people to be with. I was wondering if it could be a little history summary video about your friendship relationship with Dr. Jensen. You know what? It's coming. Renee here, I just turned over a whole bunch of pictures and personal letters and stuff like that from Jensen to and from his clients, because people kept writing him for help. So he always sent them to me, and I have stacks of letters to them from him, and then to me, and so and pictures of us all over the place. We went on cruises together. We had a lot of fun, but we were spiritual buddies. But yeah, that was fun stuff, you know. Matter of fact, I've got a lot of pictures of him in Portugal. Some funny things in Portugal too, you know, because you had to have interpreters. And I remember this one. He gave a lecture, and then I gave a lecture. He gave up first, so they had an interpreter for him. Well, I used one of the ladies that worked for me in my in our company, who was from Lisbon, Portugal. So she had always helped me because I'd been over there back and forth many times. So she would work with me. Man, she knew it so well, I almost didn't have to speak. I said, "Did you tell them all of that already?" You know, so I was very used to an interpreter and have been for years, but they gave him an interpreter that couldn't interpret well, and it didn't go good. He got mad. The group, she would try to figure out how to interpret what he said. Well, the group was interpreting for her, the whole audience. It was pretty funny, but he didn't like that too well. I said, "No, thank you. I'm using you." And this girl, lady that worked for us, she didn't want to do it, but she did, because you know, all the things you get into like that. But we had a lot of fun. We went on. Well, I've been on one of their television shows over there. There's a medical show, and I took him on the show one year, and I've got all those pictures. Most of these pictures, I think, are in the clinic side over there, but I thought I'd grab something. I'll show you real quick some pictures of us together here. See what I got over here. All right. See, I got a few little things. Well, this is just one back at his corral here. All right. I got a load of them. I'll have to show you sometime some of the loads that I've got in there. I bet none of you know what this book is. Hang on. That's Doc Jensen back here. Benedict Luss, and I never got him. Someone took him from him, and he was going to give them to me. Benedict Luss journals. Benedict Luss coined the word naturopathy. Who's these people? I bet you don't know who these people are. That's Mutt Lang and Shania Twain. We got a lot of good buddies out there. But I had a lot of fun with Doc. When you have that much experience, I could tell you stories that just make me cry, though. He's got a lot of good experiences. Get this one. Every now and then, this happened for the first 2 or 3 years after he passed. They'd walk by my office when I had it down the way there, and one of the ladies went up to the counter and said, "Who's that in Dr. Morse's chair?" "Oh, that's Dr. Jensen. He visits all the time." Pretty wild around here sometimes. All right. So, yeah, that's fun stuff. Not so much on the iridology side, but things that you've learned from him and each other over the years, the evolution in your thought about human health regarding Dr. Jensen theories and studies. Well, to be honest with you, I'm the one he came to. He wasn't a vitalist, even though his friends were. His personal friend was N.W. Walker. And he told me he had died at 107, but Doc didn't see him in the last 10 years of his life. N.W. Walker, most of you know his and raw juices and things. What a great guy N.W. Walker was. One of the true early on vitalists. Paul Bragg, I mean, he didn't look like a vitalist because you can tell a body that's on a raw and a body that's not. But he pushed more vitalism than Doc did. If you go back, I have some pictures here of us in his Health Valley Ranch here. I've got some pictures of Doc, and well, I'll get some together and show you. But some of in his old Health Valley Ranch, he would have raw milk cheeses and nuts and whole grain breads. Well, that's what I went through too. But he'd been in the field 75 years. I was only in it 50. I mean, this guy was in it a long, well, not quite even 50, 44, 45 years now. I mean, this guy was in it a long time. He actually got beat up more than I did, by far. Just because when you're of a higher area of awareness and you come into darkness, it attacks you. And it attacked him too. But he was a good man. I didn't learn so much of it, even in his books. I wasn't a Jensen follower in health. I was into fruitarianism and that level of thinking. So I wasn't into the other things like goat's milk and stuff like that. So his books didn't turn me on in that way, although I've always respected his greatness. And the cases he's worked on, he talked all the different cases that he's went through and stuff. But his thing, he taught me more about iridology, some things I didn't know. But we were just buddies. We didn't look at each other like one knew more than another. We just respected each other's level of expertise. He really couldn't believe the level that I could regenerate tissue at. That's why he first met me with that. I cured a buddy of his while he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and I cleaned it up in 2 or 3 months or something, and he couldn't believe it. You know, so it's just these sort of things. But we were more spiritual buddies. We believed in consciousness and God and that sort of thing, you know, a higher level of being and acting and carrying yourself and that sort of thing. But the stories, you know, him and his buddies and stuff like that. He had a good story with Sai Baba. He had a very good story. See if I can tell you that without crying. So he was going over to see Sai Baba. And Sai Baba is one of the few humans that I know that can materialize from the astral world. One of the few. I don't know. Amazing. But very aware being, no question. So Jensen went over to meet with him to see if he could get some spiritual succor. And the night before, he'd been having a lot of trouble back in the States with this television man, or radio host, was really after him, defaming him every way he turned, was just really after him, making an extra point to defame Dr. Jensen. And a lot of people tried to in the earlier days. So the night before he was supposed to meet Sai Baba, he had this dream of this radio guy or this television guy chasing him, trying to get him. And then he felt this wind coming and blowing all over his back and his back, and this blew this guy totally out of the water. And then his dream ended. So he was in line waiting to see Sai Baba, and there was a lady up in front. And this lady says, "Oh, I'm sorry, Sai Baba. I couldn't discipline myself with a diet. I couldn't discipline myself with my spiritual exercises." She said, I'm not perfect. And he looked at her and he said, "Honey," he said, "I saw you perfect the first time I saw you." See, that's the thing. So, Jensen comes up and he says, "Hi, I'm Dr. Jensen." And Sai Baba looked at him and said, "Oh, you don't remember me?" And Doc goes, "No, this is the first time I've ever met you." Sai Baba said, "You don't remember me blowing on your back last night?" Ooh. Damn. Good stories, brother. Good stories of healing and health and spirituality and all this stuff like that. You know? It's time we help the people that don't feel like they're any good. Man has done nothing but cut man down, you know. We build man up, we?
Yes.
Now, or more bluntly, what did Dr. Jensen get right about human health, and where did he or the both of you miss the mark? Well, that's an interesting question. Well, he missed the mark about not being a vitalist. I missed the mark by not being able to maintain being a vitalist. You know, it's one thing to be a raw foodist and be a fruitarian for X amount of years, and it's another thing to maintain it on for 40 some years, and especially going through different mates and different experiences in life since you're a young person. He missed the mark surrounded with his buddies of raw. He was not raw. And I'll give you an example. Excuse me just for 1 second. Yeah, it's hard not to be emotional once in a while when you're dealing in so many lives and their suffering and Jesus. But here's his diet. Every morning, 2 3-minute eggs, a bowl of lightly steamed carrots and sliced beets, a glass of half carrot juice, half goat's milk, a bowl of rice cereal with goat's milk. I forget what he put on it. And then a big bowl of extremely well over-ripened fruit. I think I showed you his endoscopy and colonoscopy at one time. I think I found it. It's down here to show you what his bowels looked like before we put him on the herbs. He had not discovered the beautiful kingdom of herbs at this level. And he needed to, and he did. He started using the herbs and enjoyed them immensely. But, and a good example is, like I said, when he woke up to prostate cancer, he put himself on a 3-month carrot juice fast. I have his film here. And he got down to 80 pounds. The problem is, again, and I've made this statement before, it should have been grape juice, not carrot juice. But that's how it rocked back then. He was part of the founding fathers almost. I mean, you can go on back and go on back. But it's hard. He belonged to, matter of fact, I have his card here. He belonged to the Arnold Ehret Club. When is his Arnold Ehret Club? 1929. 1929, he belonged to the Arnold Ehret. So he had that in him. He had that raw food in him. He was surrounded by the raw foodists of the day. But I don't think he could get there. I don't think he could do that. He balanced out with that. But then he ended up, he was about longevity too. It wasn't just about iridology. His whole thing was longevity. He interviewed Charlie Smith, which I knew up here, Bartow up here, 120 years. He was an orange grove worker, black man. He ate oranges and sardines and crackers. That was his diet. Lived to be 120. Hunza people up to the 140s. I think there was a Russian he interviewed at 167 age. So he tried to incorporate everything he saw that each one of them did for longevity. He tried to incorporate that into his daily, but you can't do that. And so he had a lot of gastric problems, but that was his daily meal. And the very first time I went out there to meet with him, the first time I ever met him, he came to my office down here. When I went over to see him, he had a lady that prepared the morning breakfasts. And I was sitting in there with him and his wife and my significant other. When I don't know what you want to call her, a house worker, whatever, brought out the food, I'm going, no. I can't eat that. I said, I'm sorry, Doc. I would be on the ground rolling over. I said, do you have any watermelon in the refrigerator? And you ought to have seen the smile on her face. She says, I sure do. I said, I'll take that. Thank you. But that's the way it was. But we didn't have any conflict with that, because we never really talked about it. I don't care if you're a raw foodist or not. I don't judge people that way. As soon as I judge, I want to get it back. So I don't care. It is whatever it is, But it's interesting as you asked that. For me, I missed the mark by not staying raw all these years like I would have loved to. It's just when you're young in this, and you're 20 years old, and this is 20-year-old in 1970s, 1968. These are early years, and the consciousness back then were a little different than it is right now. Health food stores weren't even around when I was growing up, and when they were underground. I mean, there's been some tough states of consciousness to break through to get to where we are right now. Horrible, horrible, fixed states of consciousness. But interesting question you have there, my friend. Yeah. I thought he got a lot wrong about health, but I thought he got an awful lot right about iridology. That was his main squeeze, although he was into health. But if he would have just moved to being more of a vitalist, maybe we could have done something. But and then he passed a little mad because he thought he should be, what was he, 93, and he thought he should live 12 by 12 at least. But you would if you were a raw foodist and you detoxified the body properly, what you guys are doing. But these greats were the pillars that we're all building on. And you guys will be the greats that someone will build on your pillars. And that's why I said earlier, be the best you can be. Be the greatest you can. Seek the truth always. And run with that truth, no matter how hard it is for people around you to stomach it. Too bad. We're the truth bearers. We're the ones of the light of God. Are we going to put our light out because someone doesn't like it? Heck no. We're going to shine it even brighter. Good question. Rando, good question. Love you, man. I got to get out of here. But you guys are sweethearts, and I love you a bunch. Sorry to break down sometimes on you, but Jesus, there's so much out there, So much pain and suffering, sad stuff, but we're here to help fix it and change it, aren't we? So good to have you aboard, and love all of you guys, and thanks for tuning in.